Okay.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Jennifer. Hi,
Hello.
glad to have you aboard.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so are we. Hello?
Okay, here we go. There's Bill. And is that Dennis? Okay. Bill's here. Richard. Dennis.
Missing Dennis.
Dennis is here. And Jason said he will be here.
He's there.
I'm here. I just
No,
made it home
Jason
from the
Brown.
best-
Jason
Yeah.
Brown's here.
I just made it home from the best baseball game I've ever watched.
You can't recognize him with
Oh,
that
there
hat
he
on,
is.
right?
He's got his hat on. Okay, terrific. Well, it's 7 o'clock. So why don't we get started? I'd like to call the, was it June 9th or June 8th meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals to order. My name is Ned Moore and I'm the chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals. Sitting with us tonight are Richard Gilbert, a regular member. We have Jason Brown, he's a regular member. Bill Piggott is a regular member. And Dennis, where's Dennis? Where did Dennis go? Oh, there he is. Dennis, you are an alternate, right? Correct?
Nope,
No.
not anymore.
Okay, not anymore. Okay. Dennis Crow is here. He's a regular member. Okay. I just
Ned?
like.
Yeah, there's also Jennifer Gordon.
Oh, Jen.
She's been newly appointed
Hi, Jennifer. How are you?
and she's an
Welcome aboard.
alternate.
Good. Thank you so much. Yes, I'm the new
Jennifer
alternate.
Gordon Is a new alternate to the board.
Jennifer took my place as alternate, right?
Oh, okay. Great. Well, welcome aboard and welcome to the big leagues now. We have, in order to have a hearing, we need to have 4 votes for application approval. Marlene Kennedy, our clerk, will read the meeting call as it was posted. All items, if any items are going to be left, I don't think we have that problem anymore with Zoom, but become property of the board. You have an opportunity to withdraw your application at this time. You must remember that 4 votes are required to have an approval. So if you'd like to withdraw, you have that option at this point. And all people who are going to address the board should please give us your name and your address. Okay. So at this time, I'd like to call on Marlene to read the meeting call.
Okay. Okay. Zoning Board of Appeals, regular meeting agenda, Tuesday, June 8th, 2021, 7 PM. Zoom online meeting. Applications 8243 13 Harbor Avenue, map 24, lot 186, R4 district. Request to vary sections 3.6A and 3.6D of the Madison zoning regulations to allow a 25-foot, 6-inch front yard setback where 30 inches is required to permit existing dwelling to be demolished and new dwelling be constructed, and to allow 8 feet 5 inches side yard where 12 feet is required to permit above ground propane tanks. 8244 54 Stone Road, map 12, lot 101, R4 district, request to vary sections 3.6A of the Madison zoning regulations to allow a front setback variance of 19.5 feet where 30 feet is required to permit second floor addition. Section 3.8B to permit 2,949.6 square feet where 2,392 square feet is allowed. Section 12.6 enlargement of non-conforming structure. 824538 Godman Road, map 77, lot 14, RU1 district, request to vary section 5.5F of the Madison zoning regulations to allow 18-foot side setback where 30 feet is allowed for the installation of a 14-foot by 20-foot garage. 8246 58 Overshores Drive East, map 24, lot 56, R4 district. Request to vary Madison zoning regulations, section 3.6D to permit 4 foot 6 inch side yard where 12 feet is required to add a second floor over existing first floor, section 12.6, enlargement of non-conforming structure. Approval of minutes, April 13th, 2021, regular meeting, and adjournment. So,
Okay,
in
Thank you.
8243 13 Harbor Ave, map 24, lot 186.
okay. Is there anybody who will be presenting on behalf of the property owner?
Yes, how you doing? My name is Travis Gulick, Gulick and Company, renovation contractors, 45 Wall Street, Madison.
Okay,
I'm going to share my screen. This is a property, 13 Harbor Ave. This is the existing survey. It's a small lot. As you can see, the house is very close to the property on the south side property line. It's about 8.2 feet away. And the front yard setback is 16.7 feet. Right here, this is a little sunroom, a full season room. So it is quite, and you can see this dotted line. This is the building setback. I will.
I'm sorry, go back to that, Travis. Which was the setback?
Sorry about that. I was going to go share the screen. This dotted line right here. You can follow this.
Got it. Yep. Okay.
So as you can
Yep.
see, it's a small lot with the setbacks and the R4. It's very, very tight to build.
Very tight. Yeah.
Very tight. I'm going to bring up the existing house so you can see the existing the house. This is the house existing. It's a 1-story house on a stone foundation. The clients came to me. I don't know. I remember how long ago. And they wanted to do a renovation and add a second floor. There was plenty of floor area to do so. However, when we started looking at the structure and the feasibility of adding a second floor, this is a little beach house that the foundation really is on a rubble foundation, and the foundation would not be able to support a second floor. So instead of trying to renovate, trying to do anything with the foundation, it really financially does not make any sense to renovate and add a second floor with trying to add a full foundation. This is not in a flood zone, so we weren't looking to raise it or anything like that. Going back, just show you a couple more images of the existing. This is the south side. The fence on here on your right is the south side of the house. You can see the existing propane tanks. And again, this is about 8.2 feet off of the house or off of the property line. This structure right in the front here is 16 feet from the property line. Let's go back. Where'd it go? There it is. So when we started looking at the feasibility, Gary Leonard, we worked with Gary Leonard on the design, trying to really figure out what can we do for a new construction. And that's when we started getting into the aspect of merely being the hardship. With a new construction building, you have to meet 100% of the health code, which is 100% of the septic system. So it has to meet every code, or a new house has to meet the health code. Therefore, we started looking at, all right, well, where can the septic system go? That's our first aspect. Well, we can't really put in the front line. We have a water line. Well, we have to be a certain amount of feet from the water line. All right, well, what about the side yard? All right, well, the setbacks for a septic system is 10 feet off the property line, 10 feet off a house. Now, if we look at the existing property right now, you have 18 feet on the north side on the driveway, doesn't fit there. Go to the back of the house. All right, well, the existing house right now is 27 feet. Well, that leaves you 7 feet for septic. And you can see in the property, and the setback is 20 feet. So you have to be pretty far away from you can't even build in your setback right on the setback line in the backyard due to your septic system having to meet 100% of the health code. So starting to play with it. This is the final aspect of, this is the proposed survey, let's say. So if you can kind of look past the bold lines, you can see that it's laid over the existing, where right here, if you're following my cursor, you can kind of see the outline. It actually comes all the way down to here. So this bold line is 12 feet. This is the new proposed house south side setback line, and that's right on the building setback line. So we are actually taking a non-conforming structure on this south side and making it conforming. So we are gaining 4 feet that way for the building. On the front, on the Harbor Ave side, we have the existing was 16. Well, now we're actually, the front of the house is now going to be 20.6. Or no, sorry, 25.6. You see this line here, this bold line. This bold line is the existing house. This is an open front porch, and it's 20.6, and that actually does meet zoning. So I'm not looking to, so the front porch does meet the open porch zoning rules, regulations. If you look in the, let me stop this, share this one. I'm going to go to the septic sketch that we worked with the engineer to kind of sketch up and find the best location. This would be the proposed septic system. It has not gotten finalized or designed yet due to didn't want to put all that money into designing the system, depending on how tonight goes. But this, after doing a bunch of sketches and looking at feasibility studies, this is the best location and really the only location for a septic system to meet 100% of the health code. As you can see, this orange line is 10 feet off the setback or the property line. And then you need, this is the tank right here, and you need 10 feet off of there. 10 feet off the property line, 10 feet off the property line. So this is where, if you see my cursor, we need to be 10 feet off of this line, and it actually kind of jogs around the septic tank around 10 feet. So if you take, that's on top of the existing survey, by the way, not the new survey. I'm going to go back to the proposed survey. You can tell me to go back to anything you want, obviously, just trying to get an overview of everything now. So if you take that overlay of the septic feasibility, you see this this jog because we're about 10 feet away from the septic tank. This is the old septic tank, FYI, that's what that is. So the septic tank, the new septic tank is about this location. So we're 10 feet away from this corner, 10 feet away from the house. And that's why we're able to have this little jog back here to take up a little bit more into the building setback. So with that, so really in the end, one of the main hardship is that septic system. We really can't get closer to it. We're giving up the south side. We're taking that back. We are going to remove this shed that is non-conforming as well. We are going to take this shed down. So really on this, we're asking for the 25.6 front yard setback. And as well as these propane tanks, above propane tanks, with all the codes with propane tanks, we have to be away from the AC condenser. The AC condenser has to be in the building setback. The propane tanks existing right now on that south side. And you can see down here, we're actually moving it farther away from the setback or the property line, but we are still within the building setback. I have one more thing to show as well. I took a satellite image from Google. The existing house, 13 Harbor Ave. This right here is that sun porch, what we're actually losing. We're actually getting rid of that. And we're maintaining the front of the house at the same line as existing is. And if you follow this line, I kept it pretty even off the road. And we're not asking to go any further to the front, to the street than all the other houses are already. We're not looking to go closer, but we also can't go further back due to that septic. So we're staying right in line with the neighborhood, you can say. Go to actually show you the design. That might be something you want to see. This would be the 2-story building. Really keeping a traditional look. Not going any too ornate, really Gary did a great job, really kind of keeping in character for the area. Not going too big. That's facing Harbor Ave. This is facing south. This is a little fireplace bump out, which we meet all the regulations for fireplace on that as well. This would be the back of the house. Where this is that little bump out on the back towards the septic. It's only just a 1-story with just a little shed roof. These are going to be metal roofs. This is a little pergola. This is a little landing deck, really a landing coming out of the slider, a couple steps down. This is a pergola off of the house, meeting zoning requirements as well. And then a little overhang on the second floor. And then this is the north side of the house. This will be on the driveway side. And you can see the shed roof coming off of here, kind of keeping that one level. Then we get into cutouts of the inside. You can take a look at the interior just to get an idea. So you get the covered landing. That's the 20 feet, 20.6 feet off the property line, which meets the zoning setbacks for the open porch. Then this is the front line of the house. That's really, when you look at it, I'll zoom in. This right here, this line, this thin line, that's the existing house. We're actually coming back just a little bit. This is the proposed chimney on that south side, proposed Bilco, and then the propane tanks. I might as well just kind of keep going, just present everything I have and then go from there. The clients, Tammy and David, were really nice, and they went around to their neighbors They showed their plans to the neighbors, to all sides. It says this letter is regarding the property at 13 Harbor Ave. Below signatures represent that our neighbors have been informed of our plans to demolish the existing property and construct a new home. And then their signatures acknowledge that they have no objections to these plans. There's 4 signatures, 7 Harbor, 4 Harbor, 75 Neck on the end, and 17 Harbor. That's the attached email. And I gotta rotate that. And they'd say, it looks good to me, go look at the meeting. I did submit these to this morning for record. From there, I leave it for questions.
Mr. Gulick, Rich Gilbert, I have a couple questions for you, please. So on one of the, so where you're asking 8 foot 5 inches on the side yard for
Correct.
just because of the propane tanks, or is that also because of the Bilco and the chimney?
Just the propane tanks. The propane tanks have to be in the property setback.
Okay.
And you can't have them close to the air conditioning, and then you kind of get into your backyard.
Just curiosity, can those go underground, or do those have to be above?
Yes, they can. Yes, they can. It's, a financial cost to do so. It's about $5-6 grand plus a little excavation to do so. You have to buy the tank. You don't rent the tanks from the propane company, you buy it yourself. So it's about $4 to $5 grand for that. Then you have to dig and do all that work. So you're probably in $7-8 grand to do so. So it was comes out in the finances.
Okay, and you were explaining about the septic. Is the septic the reason you're not just doing a rebuild in the existing footprint? And that way you wouldn't even need a...
Either way, I would need a variance. If I built it with an exact same footprint, as you see, we built in the same footprint, I would have this is on the south side, this is within the building setback, and the front of the house is within the building setback. So even if we tear it down, we would still have to come here and do it to get a variance. If we were renovating, we wouldn't. However, if we added a second floor, we would need to come for a variance because we'd be building within the setback. So this is kind of, we couldn't renovate and add a second floor. So, okay, well, we need to build a new house. Well, we can give up some on the south side and really just keep that maintaining on the front yard setback. They aren't looking to build a big house, modest house, fits in with the neighborhood. So, we could have asked for existing what we had, but there was just no need.
Okay. One more final question I have is, would you mind on this diagram's perfect, just showing us again where you're adding nonconformities and where you're taking them away?
Correct. We are taking away this nonconformity over here on the south side. That's the main
Reducing.
house.
That's just a reduction, right?
Reduction of, correct, reducing. It's tough.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, what are you gonna do, right?
correct.
We got it.
So we're bringing the house into the building setback on the south side. We're maintaining the one on the front yard, and we're maintaining we're bringing back, because this square right here is the main first floor. So we're actually giving up this area in the front yard, bringing the whole front of the house back. And then we're taking away the non-conforming shed as well. So really, we're not asking for anything that's not already there. We're actually scaling back the non-conformities.
That's what I was going to ask, if you've done a calculation at what's the net result, but it looks like looks like you are scaling back.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
From
I have a question. This is Bill Piggott.
Yep.
It looks like you've decreased the lot coverage, if I'm reading this correctly, from 1,120 to 1,045. So you're also making a reduction there.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Gulick, this is Jason Brown.
I know.
It's another day in paradise.
There you go.
Just real fast, is there a structural reason why the front yard or a building reason why the house, I understand that we can't go back any further. So we can't fit this existing footprint within the setback, and we can't go back any further because of the septic system. Is there any reason for that, for the front side of the house to exceed the setback by 4.4 feet?
It's really the layout. When you start going in the inside, you start looking at the rooms, the mudroom, the kid. It gets really tight.
Can you bring up the floor plan again? The first floor
Yeah.
plan?
So you start squeezing. This would be the front. If you brought this back, this is going to be the laundry room. We're keeping as well. We're maintaining the bedroom count as well as a 3-bedroom house. We are not making it a 4-bedroom house. We're maintaining a 3-bedroom house. So when you squeeze this back, you really shrink down your laundry area. You really don't have a mudroom much. The dining gets squeezed. You need a hallway getting around the dining. The stairs, obviously, and then everything else just gets squeezed. And that's when it gets into the floor area on the first floor. We're reducing it so much to meet that building setback. It doesn't make the house very function as open as you would like.
Thank you. And this, oh wait, I had one more. So this is a complete tear down, right? So we're doing
Yes.
away with the existing foundation. We're not using any portion of the existing foundation. We're not,
Nope.
we're removing.
All new.
All new. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so the letters that we have, they're I noticed in the application and the paperwork documents, there were, I don't know, 20 people or so that were mailed, that they received the mailed notice. Is that
Sure.
correct? Somewhere in that number.
Yeah, something. Like
And
15.
and nobody responded other than these people that you,
Correct.
Tammy and Dave
unless-
Robinson obviously went out and solicited people's input directly and,
Correct.
Yeah,
These are the immediate neighbors. They didn't
Uh-huh.
go to all 15 or anything. They went just
Right.
to their immediate neighbor across the street next door. Yeah, I did not get anything from any of the mailings that I sent out.
okay, that's where I was going, right? Okay, nothing came
and
back.
Dave did not-
Yeah.
Nope.
Okay. All right. You've got the owners there on the screen. Would they have anything they'd like to add?
Tammy, Dave, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, we're asking for the variance. We love Madison. We love the street, and we're just trying to enhance the building itself, right? And we understand that the challenges with the foundation, and we're trying to work within the footprint as best we can. So we ask, your approval on this, on the setback.
Yeah, make the neighborhood look nice.
Yeah. Yeah, really try to stay within, just invest in the street, if you will, the association, and we're here for the long term, and this is our primary residence.
Okay.
I mean,
John and Dave, any guidance on this?
John here. No, it's a reduction of nonconformities.
Right.
They're complying with coverage and floor areas. And I think the shed's going to be removed. That's a big step into compliancy, much less non-compliant.
Yeah.
And the 2 yard variances are actually equal to or less than, what's there existing. So it looks to me like it's an overall reduction,
Yeah.
in non-conformities.
I think the lot size that they have a lot size that's about half of what is required in the zone that they're living in right now.
Correct. There's about, it's a little over 5, I believe, and I think 10 is what's required.
Right. So you can't get much more house on that property.
Try to squeeze every inch.
And
All right.
is
We don't have
there
any more questions, Ned? You
anyone-
want to go into negotiations?
Yeah, I was just going to ask if anybody has anything they'd like to say in support of the application or against the application. I'd like to move that we go into deliberations.
Second.
Okay. Okay, well, I think that there's a couple of things going on in the property. As I said, it's about half the size of the average lot size for an R4 zone. So it's a tiny lot to begin with. They have made the most of the space that they have with the existing property, and by reducing the nonconformities in the property and getting rid of the non-conforming shed and reducing the nonconformity on the south side, I think they are really, showing a good faith effort into trying to make the house conform in the neighborhood. They really have no place to go back in with the situation with the septic. So they've designed themselves a very nice property. And
Yeah.
I'd be supportive of.
Yeah, I agree, Ned. I think the fact that, they're still within the setback, that they haven't pulled back the front to completely, to code, but or to zoning, but they are in line with the other houses in the neighborhood. So, right down the street.
Mhm.
That line on the map there showed that pretty clearly. So it looked, and to scrunch the house up more than that,
That'd be good.
you'd be doing laundry and cooking at the same time, right?
Efficient. Could be an efficient use of time.
Yeah. It's a good point.
Anyone else? Richard?
So,
Yeah, so I don't really see hardship, but in lieu of that, I do see it looks like an overall reduction nonconformities. The only question I have for the board is the propane tanks. If the propane tanks were put underground, then it would be an even more compliance, which is where I think as a board we want to steer these variance requests. So that's just a question I throw out there, is do we keep the side request as it is, or do we reduce it and say put the propane tanks underground? But I think overall the reduction in nonconformities is enough to grant a variance, though.
yeah, they did pull the propane tanks back from away from the side.
So I did sit through the entire Wesleyan seminar, and basically, if we knock down a structure, then we can't take credit for reduction in nonconformities. So that's not a basis. I mean, so in the absence of a legal hardship, you can claim as a basis for a variance a reduction in nonconformities. However, when you knock down a structure and build new, you lose the ability to claim any kind of reduction in nonconformities. And I believe that the town council also advised us similarly. Hence my question about what are we going to do about, you know, the fact that we're now building a non-conforming structure. That being said, it is our duty and responsibility as a board to, you know, look at everything individually. I do think that individually that the, you know, the hardship here is that the lot is half the size of the lot that you're supposed to have. So I don't think that we need to claim reduction in nonconformities for granting this, because the lot is already, it's a non-conforming lot to what the zoning regulations are. So I think that we can say that the legal hardship is that the lot size is not consistent with current zoning regulations. You know, all of the design aspects of the house are wonderful, and putting a, you know, and it's always a positive to put a new septic system in into a neighborhood. As far as Rich, as far as your comment about the propane tanks, you know, I don't disagree with you and the point that you're making, and if that's a sticking point, I would agree to it. But I really think that, you know, they're propane tanks. It's not, I understand what the zoning rules are, and I understand that we need, you know, we're granting a variance to put propane tanks above ground outside. There's a whole lot of houses with propane tanks above ground than outside. They're hidden from the street. The neighbors, the direct neighbors have seen this and they don't have a problem with it. And, you know, going with my theory that I've, you know, that I've espoused over the last, what, 3.5 years on this board. If the neighbors don't complain and it's not egregious, then, you know, then so be it. You know, I think that we should grant both of these variances based on the hardship. I think we can, based on the hardship, that the lot size is half of what the zoning regulations require. And that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, good point, Jason.
Good point.
Anybody else?
Anyone else?
If that's be the case, I move that we would approve the application as submitted.
I'll second.
I'd like to amend that because I think we need to say that we're approving it based on the hardship, that the property size is less than what zoning requires. So I'd like to amend Dennis's motion to include that.
Okay, I'll accept that amendment.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Again? Okay, well, congratulations. Good
Thank you
luck.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice neighborhood over there.
Yes, it
Thank
is.
you.
Thank you.
Very neat,
Travis.
neat and trim.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate it.
Okay.
Hold on. Okay, next. Wait, hold. Where's the thing? Okay. All right. Application 8244 54 Stone Road, map 12, lot 101, R4 district. Oops.
Good evening, Chuck Mandel. I'm one of the agents for the applicants. Dave, there are two attendees that I would like to join the meeting. It's Michael Salzback and Gary Leonard, the architect. They were going to lead off on this one.
All right,
I just moved them over. They should be coming now.
Okay. Okay, Michael, you're up. I'm going to go back to silent mode there.
How do I get visible here, guys?
There's a
In the upper
button on the
right?
bottom left.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there. Start video. There. So I do exist, and you can hear me.
Yes.
Yes.
Terrific, thank you. I'm Michael Sulzbach. I live at 85 Fair Street in Guilford, and I'm a total stranger to Madison and its zoning board and its regulations. And it's a pleasure to be back, as a matter of fact. And with me tonight, or with us, is the owner, Ken Dale, Gary Leonard, the architect for this project, and Chuck Mandel, who just got us in, who is the engineer. And he's here primarily for the coastal site plan review, which we always forget to do. The application, as the notice read, involves 3 sections of the regulations, which is actually a lot of sections for something that is, in the end, I think you'll find far simpler in concept. And I think Gary can, the place to start is really with the project. It's an existing house, and not far from the one that you just heard about. And it's pre-existing. It's non-conforming in a couple of respects, mostly setback. And the only variance that's on the table tonight has to do with setback, not lot coverage, not living space, not volume, not bulk, nothing else. And in fact, as you'll see in a moment, the piece that is subject to the setback variances is kind of stuck inside the footprint of the existing house, which is sort of, it is an interesting problem. Part of the nonconformity here, obviously, is we have a pre-existing nonconforming house. And if you want to put anything even in the middle of it, it's nonconforming. It becomes more nonconforming for setback purposes. And so I think if we can get Gary to put the first elevation up, which shows the existing building and what's being proposed. To the left, obviously, is the existing east elevation and south elevation. And what's happening, it looks bigger when you're looking at the elevations, particularly the east, because you're looking at it from its large size. It's a little like a Hollywood Western stage set, where they would have the big picture of the saloon and you walk behind and there was no more saloon. That you'll see in a moment is kind of what's happening here. That's its largest effect. And if we can go now to because I think this is all in your packet anyway, to the next one, which shows that same elevation, the east, and the piece that's being added. So you can see what's really happening is you've got a dormer with 3 windows, and then setback behind that, almost out of the setback territory, are 2 living spaces, one with 2 windows and the other with a 3rd. But it's all contained in the existing building. And then to give you a better sense of how that works, if you could put up the 3rd one here. Now you see what we're really talking about. Really 2 things. One is the yellow section that you see at the bottom of this site plan is the area on top of the existing building that, because we're adding on top of the existing building, we're technically increasing the encroachment into that setback. And therefore we need the variance, which gets you 3 numbers on the application. And that's what we're doing. There's no other way to do it as a practical matter. The misfortune and the hardship is that this house got built and put here. And then the zoning requirements got installed around it, which is actually a classic sort of hardship situation. In addition, on the hardship side, if you look at the upper left-hand corner of the existing building, there's a green section, which is in fact being removed. So in addition to simply making the best of where we are, we're also reducing actual lot coverage. And we're not increasing any lot coverage anywhere. And that really is this project. You'll have seen a lot bigger ones even tonight, but that's it. We would like to add a little piece on the second floor and live there. My clients and friends are attentive to their neighbors, shared these plans long before they made the application, and have talked with them and consulted. And you'll find in your packet letters from the bulk of the adjacent property owners who would be affected by this. Not that there's anything here that's anywhere close to anybody that would be a normal setback issue. It's not that they're moving closer or encroaching or any of those things. In fact, the setback area, as you saw from these drawings, is really kind of shielded from the edge of the building. And again, I want to emphasize that nothing else is increasing or is in need of a variance. No lot coverage issues, no living space, no bulk, no volume, no height, none of those things. And as Chuck will confirm, we don't have coastal management issues. We don't have engineering things. This is it. This is the whole application. I wish there were more that we could talk about, you know how lawyers are. But I think I need to stop here. And we'd be happy, all of us, to answer any other questions you might have, and do so now.
I'm just a little confused, and not that this is part of the question, but the yellow area there, that's you're only expanding the second floor and then within the yellow, or is that only that part of the expansion that is within the setback?
Correct. Ladder.
The ladder,
The
okay.
expansion is you can see it, it's bigger.
That's what I thought. Okay, that just confused me a little bit. Got it.
But the other part is not non-conforming, doesn't require a variance.
Right.
It can just be done as of right.
Yeah.
So we're trying to make clear what the variance piece is all about.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So they could build it without the variance, but it would look funny.
Yeah.
Is the second floor, it looks like in the picture, the second floor setback is a little further back than the first floor setback. Did I interpret that correctly?
Yeah, the picture's accurate. Gary's here, and he's the guy who took all the measurements and did it. And so that's correct.
Okay.
But the actual setback on the ground, I mean, you're right, it's a little smaller on the second floor, but the rest of it doesn't change.
Yeah, I see.
Other than, well, that's the reduced coverage isn't in setback territory. But the setbacks are all the same as they always were. But on the second floor, they're a little less on the Stone Road side.
Mr. Sulzbach,
Yeah.
you said that what we're dealing with here is just a setback issue.
Correct.
On the application, we state that we're looking for a variance of 557.6 square feet because the total square footage of the house allowed is 2,392 square feet and proposed is 2,949.6 square feet. We didn't discuss that at all.
We didn't, and we spent a fair amount of time with Chuck and John talking about that. If you look at the table of how many square feet of house we can have here, we aren't asking for any more than we're allowed, less in fact. And John may be able to help you, because I considered recommending not even asking for that particular section, because we are allowed what we have. But the truth is, we're adding square feet in that yellow section. And I guess if you add them all up, you could maybe make the argument that we weren't allowed that because we have to get a variance to put it there. In other words, the allowable is not the zoning table. It's allowed if you don't have to get a setback variance. So it's not, in other words, it's not the gross square footage issue. But we're seeking to add square feet in the area where we aren't supposed to have them because of the setback. And that's how you got to that particular variance section in our application. I know, it hurt my head a little. So much does.
So we're asking for the variance on the square footage because we are adding square footage in an area that we're not supposed to be building.
Correct. But if you go to the square footage table of how many square feet can you have on a lot of this size in this zone, we could have it all and more.
John, can you elaborate on that for me a little bit?
I mean, I think the cutting to the chase here, the overall, and Chuck, you can step in here, if I'm off base, but there's a reduction in the coverage by, I think, 20.
Yeah,
20.35 square feet. So the existing coverage is being reduced. So that's less non-compliant than it is now. The floor area is allowable and it's permitted with what they're asking for. So they're not over on floor area, it's just the coverage. But although they are over by 500 and something square feet, it's 20.35 feet less than the existing structure.
Chuck Mandel here. Yeah, that's correct, John. Actually, the part of the variance, we're adding a second floor in the non-conforming area. So that's really it in a nutshell. And that was based on the zoning the regulations coming in, setbacks being imposed on the structure, after the structure was in place.
Okay, so the coverage itself, well, it's already non-conforming, but it'll be less non-conforming.
Correct, by about 20
The
square
floor-
feet.
Yeah, by about 20 square feet.
So we're not, so it's not the
floor area. The floor area will remain less than, so it doesn't require variance. Got it.
What is the lot square footage?
Well, it says on the application, it says,
That's
oh, wait, that's-
16,767.
yeah. Well, this says 723, but that's,
So 16,767.
723, you're correct.
723.7.
Yeah, I misread that. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
7.
So that's 16.7 and 16.6 to 16.8 is the same. And that's allowable square footage is 4,320 for floor area. The maximum coverage is
2392.
2. And we're not increasing the maximum coverage because we're building within the floor. We're building within the plan view, the plan area of the house, the footprint of the house still. Okay, I think I understand now, and I am done.
okay. All right. I think we've already heard from John. Somebody else got any?
Chuck, do you want to talk about the coastal? Or do you want to pick that up at the end?
Not really. I mean, it's actually, it's all in it's all within the shorelands. I mean, the only reason we went to CAM is due to the fact that it's in a CAM zone and it's a ZBA issue. It's non-conforming. That's what drives us to go to CAM. So that's really it in a nutshell. We did go to the health department. We have approval. We have the B100A satisfied because we are adding a bedroom, but there is adequate septic available for repair area if we need be.
We don't deal with that until after the variance is approved anyway.
Okay.
Okay. Ned, we probably can go into deliberations now. Do I need a motion to do that? You're
Unmute
muted.
yourself. Ned,
Ned,
unmute.
Where's Ned?
Bottom left, Ned. There you go.
I think, am I okay?
Yes.
You're fine.
There you
You're
go.
doing
Okay.
great.
Between the different social media things now, you don't know where these things are.
That's all right. I like it nonetheless. I just took my socks off, so I couldn't do that if we were in person.
Or you could, but
Well, is there anybody who is here to speak against the application? Anyone for?
There is a hand raised. Brian Boyd. Go ahead, Brian. If you could just state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Brian Boyd. My wife Marie is here with me. I don't know if you can see us or not. I don't see my picture on that screen.
No,
But that doesn't matter. I'm not much to look at anyway.
there's a button on the bottom left you could push if you wanted. It says video.
Actually, I don't see one, but never mind.
Go ahead.
No issue. Our address is 28 Hartford Avenue, which is a little bit deceiving, but that's a parallel road to Stone Road. Our home actually lies directly across Stone Road from Mr. Dale's.
Mhm.
So we're a very close neighbor of the applicant. Our house faces the side of Mr. Dale's, which requires the setback variance. It's a dense area down here by the shoreline, and our house will clearly be the most adversely impacted by the addition of a second floor to 54 Stone Road. We are going to lose most of our only significant view of Long Island Sound, which is from our second floor master bedroom, which is a view over the roof of existing 54 Stone Road. That's going to probably affect the value of our home. But that's not why we wanted to take part in the hearing. Before I go on, I'd like to mention that we do support the variance application of our good neighbor, Mr. Dale, including the scale and the positioning of the added second floor addition, but with one small caveat. The existing plan as submitted for variance approval foresees 5 new windows facing east towards our home on the new second floor. The center 3 of these are directly opposite our master bedroom and bath. The other 2 are positioned to either side. It is the distance to Stone Road from this portion of the home that, of course, requires the variance approval. Again, our home is also situated close to Stone Road, directly across. So these windows will, as planned, would significantly impact the privacy of both homes, in our opinion. At Mr. Dale's kind invitation, we had a discussion about this several weeks back, and he indicated that one possible solution would be the use of glass block in the central area where the 3 windows are planned. Behind that is internally, in any case, a stairwell. Possibly also roof skylights as an alternative. These constructive suggestions would eliminate our concerns entirely, but they're not yet reflected in the submitted plans. So we would just like to state that we very much appreciate the efforts that Mr. Dale has made to meet with us, to discuss his house plans. But we'd also be very grateful if these adjustments could be confirmed, and would be very pleased to support the variance proposal that's been made on that basis. Thank you. That was our small contribution.
Okay. So that sounds reasonable.
Very reasonable.
Yeah. John, you
real fast.
John, you sent us a note on that.
Yeah. Real fast. Which side, which elevation are we looking at here for these for this question?
That would be the east elevation.
The east, right? Oh, you don't hear me anymore. I think.
I heard you.
Okay. Yes, this is the east side of Mr. Dale's house.
And the windows that you're talking about are the second floor.
There are five windows on the second floor of that side of the building.
And you're talking about the center three.
The center three in particular would be directly across from our master bedroom.
Gary, could you go back to those drawings so that
Can
you
we
can
take a
look
look
at
at
them?
Yeah, I'd like to see if that's part of the, what's going to be the vertical encroachment or not.
Yeah, that was the yellow portion of the building. That's where those lights are.
Mhm.
The windows, I'm sorry.
Mhm. And so what is the owner's proposed solution there?
Well, actually, if I may be heard,
Sure.
this didn't come up until after everything was submitted. And in fact, very recently, the solutions, and my client's perfectly happy to, and is mindful of his neighbors and his neighborhood. That's one of the reasons why you see that small stack of very different letters in support of this application, including at least one other property that's probably affected. Sorry, one sec, Rosemary's Claw. That's probably more affected than this one, to the extent it's of any effect. Because what it really is if you look at the thing from above, it's the stairway and getting light into it. There are architectural issues that have to be addressed that could not be addressed in the time that was available here. There are questions really that probably aren't for this board. What we're dealing with here is these variances, this setback issue in these circumstances, as opposed to the aesthetic concerns of the windows and their arrangement. What I do know is that Kenneth Dale is committed to finding the best solution he can with his architect and consistent with what's been designed. And that's really what we'll continue to do. And those assurances have been given. It may help you to see, because you now have seen this relatively modest building. And I think that Gary can show you what's on the other side of the road, just to give you a sense of the relative impact of things. Because this is, in fact, the house that is unhappy, whose owner is unhappy about the prospect of the window over the staircase in the setback area. Different scale, different impact. There are hedges here. We're not nose to nose. It's not like looking across an air shaft in Manhattan and wondering how those geraniums have survived. It's a very different situation. Nonetheless, Gary and Ken will do all they can to minimize the actual impact, consistent with having a decent looking building. If you close off that window, it's going to be worse than funny looking. And there won't be any light coming in there. If there are ways to get it in and to maintain really the sense of privacy as much as anything else. I mean, once you put window treatments, as they call them these days, on those windows, there's tons of privacy. It works both ways. So, the point is we have a neighbor who is, seriously committed to being comfortable in the neighborhood and having the neighborhood be comfortable with him. But to, on short notice, put him and his architect in the position of having to redesign something that actually doesn't relate to the variance. It's not about setback. It's not about lot coverage. It's not about any of the things that, that are in the zoning code. And appropriately not. But the one thing we can assure you is that he's not going to be ignored and it's not going to be stuck in his face. But we do need some finality, and we do need not to have to go back to, however, he's our architect. And the idea of, and we trust that Gary will find a solution to this. But it should be, our solution. It is, after all, our nickel. So that's, our response to this. Again, it's not to dismiss it, and not to dismiss this neighbor by a long shot.
Yeah, I
Excuse
understand.
me, Chuck Mandel. Gary, could you go back to the drawing, the picture that shows looking out the front door of Ken's house, the Dale house? So as you can see, that's looking out the front door of Mr. Dale's house. You can see the southern edge of the structure of that is in question. Could you go back to the drawing that shows the yellow, Gary? That shows the yellow overhead view. So that front door is actually in this, about this, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is the center of the yellow area.
Right
Gary,
here.
go,
Yeah.
sorry, Chuck. Gary, go back one other, the rendering on number 2, if you don't mind.
Oh, on this one?
Yeah,
There you go.
because that front door that Chuck was referring to is that middle window on the
Correct.
bottom level.
Correct.
Correct. So you see the 3 windows above, those would be looking actually at the southern end of the other structure to the east of us. Maybe those 2, yeah. So as you can see, that's what you're looking at there. Just to give you some perspective as to what those 3 windows are actually going to be looking at.
Mhm.
In fact, they really don't look like they look like they hit the southern edge of the house.
Yeah.
It's not really a direct view into the bedroom.
Yeah, I do think though,
Yeah.
in contradiction to what Mr. Salzbeck said, I think there is room to consider the neighbor's input. In fact, that's why we have the neighbors write letters and state things, and if that's privacy is part of it. So, I think that could be a consideration. It doesn't mean that that's a deciding factor. It's just that I think that it could be a valid consideration. So,
Could we go back to the picture with the yellow, I think overhead view, please, for a second? I just had so looking for 19.4 feet. Is that the existing?
This is the 30-foot setback line right here.
Okay.
This is the existing setback of the house, which is 10.0 or 10 point, well, it's 10.2 on one side and 10.0 on the other side. So the difference between that and 30 feet is the required variance, I believe.
Okay, so in other words, it's not changing.
No, it's not changing.
Okay, vertically it is. Okay, got it.
I would just like to say that, in reference to Brian Boyd and his concern, as I've told him when we first met, which was unfortunately due to timing conflicts after the filing was made, that I would work really hard to make sure that they were pleased with it. My only reservation, if I can be frank, is I don't want to commit to something specific like glass blocks in what seems to be an architectural feature that's in a stairwell where you can't even stand close to a window. You'll be 10 feet back based on where the landing is.
but translucent glass, things that will let light in, but not allow someone to look out. I mean, I think Brian and Marie are comfortable with me, but yeah, somebody else might own the house in the future, perhaps. I mean, I'm not looking to sell. I want to be clear about that. I'm very committed to Madison. I've been a part-timer for 11, 12 years now. And due to the pandemic, like many New Yorkers, I escaped to the country, and I'm very glad I did that. But there are a number of things that I'd be happy to do. And but like I said, without getting into a lot of specifics with Gary, but we welcome the opportunity to speak with Brian and Marie going forward and look at elevations. I think we may be lower than him and all sorts of things. So it's very open. I just don't want to commit to one specific thing.
Is it possible that the application is a little premature then? And the application or the neighbor who's going to be impacted is losing an awful lot. And there's been no real discussion, and it sounds like you're putting the ball in his court.
I think though that Mr. Boyd indicated that he was okay with it, just would like to have some consideration for the privacy aspect.
Exactly.
So but I think that
It should be.
would that be incumbent upon us to dictate that? I'm not quite sure I would see that.
That's why I say it may be a little premature now, if they haven't been able to meet, and a public forum is not a place to really discuss this. I think it's personal.
Well, I'm sorry, we did meet and we've had numerous exchanges by email, but I mean, yes, the design was done before we met. And I think Brian wants greater assurance than my good word, I suppose, which doesn't make me feel all great.
Yeah, we did meet, and I appreciated that very much. We had a constructive meeting, and it was, of course, at that time actually the suggestion that you had made that one alternative, for example, would be the glass blocks in order to have some privacy element to that central 3-window area, which is now planned. So we immediately, greeted that with open arms and said that would be a great solution. It would really solve our problem. Not that it has to be exactly that solution, but we would just like to know what the solution is going to be so that we do maintain, an element of privacy as this new structure goes up. That's really our only concern.
And we're willing to meet with you and talk about those things. And I think we've offered that even prior to now. I know we offered that, and it was characterized as me coming there to sell you something. And that's the last thing we want to do. We really intend to work with you to come up with a solution that's acceptable to both parties. We've talked about eliminating the windows, 2 of the windows, the bathroom windows and the guest room window, if those in fact are an issue, completely moving the one on the bathroom around to the end of the house. The windows in the front of the house, as was pointed out, are mostly forward of your house, as you could tell from the photographs. Glass block is not appropriate to this kind of house. Translucent glass or window treatments inside of the upper sash on the upper level certainly are things that we could consider and are doable, easily doable in this house. So those are all things that we can talk about and solve this problem. Right.
Again, I'm sure the glass blocks are not the only solution, and that was again actually something that Mr. Dale had brought into the conversation. But translucent glass, I'm not sure exactly what that looks like, but that sounds also like a very good solution to what we're trying to achieve.
It's often used in office spaces, pebbled glass or sandblasted glass. There are lots of options, choices. an inner layer that is translucent can be added to laminated glass. So there are a number of options, but my preference is certainly to put window treatments in, just as you have done in your house, in all of those windows that overlook this property. Because those are easily done and can be adjusted to suit the amount of privacy needed, and still allow light. But if window treatments such as shades or mesh shades that would still allow light but minimize the view into the house would solve the problem, we're certainly willing to do that. And it would be preferable to actually doing something to the glass, but it's not out of the question to do something to the glass.
Yeah. And
I think the window, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Ken.
Now, the window shade solution is not really one which appeals to us because we just don't know what's going to happen down the road. You know, who the house is sold to, who's living in there, what's going on in the future. We have window shades go up, and translucent glass is an ideal solution. And it sounded to me like Ken, that you were, open to that as a solution here. From our perspective, it's an ideal solution.
I'm very much open.
And again, we are giving up, we're giving up quite a lot here, which is important to us and has been important to us in the 13 years we've lived here.
No, I understand. And you guys have been very supportive and open-minded about this. And I really do appreciate that.
So these were the windows that could be eliminated. We can put in a skylight to supplement a window that could be moved around the end. If necessary, this window, which is rather far forward of the Bryant's house, could also be eliminated. But we would like to put the translucent glass in the upper sash of this, which would be at eye level when you're standing back 10 feet, because this is a 2-story high space. As we noted earlier, this house is substantially lower. I was not able to actually take comparable floor elevations, but we're at least 2 or 3 feet lower on our floor elevation here. So the views from this house looking up are going to see ceiling at best, particularly with the shades on the lower half of all of the windows as they are installed.
Again, Mr. Leonard, if we're talking about translucent glass in the upper 3 windows and skylights or whatever as an alternative to the other 2, then our problem is completely solved, and we're looking forward with anticipation to Mr. Dale's new house. So that's that.
All of that's doable, and I think based on conversations with Ken, we're willing to do that. Had we been able to meet, we could have talked about those things. So
yeah.
I did offer to join that meeting with you. I specifically offered to meet with you. I believe it was on Monday, but it didn't happen. Anyway, that's water under the bridge.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure though.
Had not in the public sphere. I believe that we should move on to a closed session to allow the members to deliberate.
Yeah, I think we've heard.
Yeah, before we do that, Jason, Mr. Delora, I'd like to ask, do you consider this an overall reduction? I know there's a reduction of 20.35 square feet. Do you consider that an offset, John?
If this is still open, I hope help you a little.
Yeah, that was for Mr. Deloro to like to hear his opinion. Yeah, then we could definitely hear your opinion too. John there?
Still muted, John.
Hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's a reduction of 20.35, minimus as it may be, it's still a reduction. So it's in essence, it's less non-compliant as far as coverage is concerned. It's compliant with floor area. And there's been a lot of dialogue about those windows. It's part of the record now. And it almost sounded to me as if Mr. Adele was sort of agreeing to do some sort of a treatment to those three windows, preferably opaque glass. And I think he was sympathetic, to that with Mr. Boyd's desire. So I think that's part of the record. If anyone wanted to search this at some point, due diligence would show that the applicant and the abutter sort of agree that there'd be some treatment, probably opaque glass. So I think that's been discussed. I don't think the architect has got to make some decisions about how much of that window is going to be opaque glass, whether he even wants to change the windows to have a different rhythm if they're opaque. So I think the point is that the three windows are going to be opaque. I think that's what they decided. If I'm wrong, then by all means, the applicant or Mr. Boyd can speak up. But
Yeah, I didn't hear that, John. I heard that
let me speak up. We're absolutely willing to eliminate the two small windows in the bathroom, move one around the end, add a skylight, eliminate the window on the front, even though it is in this corner, even though it's far forward of the existing house. We're willing to put in translucent glass, pebbled glass, which you cannot see through, but will still transmit light in those upper sash.
Good solution.
100%, yes.
Okay.
Good.
All right.
So
Very good.
does that mean we need plans or we can modify it if that's what people are?
We can modify it with the motion.
Yeah, we can talk about it during deliberations. I think it's
Okay.
something that's going to go with the property forever after the owners are long gone. I think we've got to be very careful what we say. But anyway, we'll get to that.
Chuck Mandel, let me just correct John. He said opaque. It's really translucent is what we're talking about.
Correct, Chuck.
Okay, just want to clarify that.
Yeah,
But you cannot see images through, you couldn't see clearly through it.
Translucent allows light. Opaque,
Yes.
Opaque does not.
good point.
Okay. Do you need a motion to go into deliberations?
I was going to say, can someone make that motion?
I move we go into deliberations.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I think that the biggest problem on this property has been, during the course of the discussion, has not been the size. It has not been location. There has been some give back non-conformities. It has been the window treatment, and there seems to have been a resolution in that. So I would suggest that, all things being equal, we do have an agreement between the neighbors as well as on the board, and I would support the application as presented with the caveat that the windows be some form of translucent glass for privacy for all concerned.
So I'm just throwing it out there, Ned. Do we want to? I mean, yeah, on the record they agreed, but do we want to make that part of the variance? Because this is going to carry with the house long past, we're dictating windows and things like that. That's going to carry with the house because it's, and so do we want to?
I don't think we condition the variance. As much as I respect the desires of Mr. Boyd, I drove down there today. I really don't think that it's appropriate for us to condition the variance to word it as specifically as saying that, thou shalt not violate the neighbor's privacy. That being said, I don't know how we can provide Mr. Boyd with that, guarantee in perpetuity unless we do so. I'm curious, Dennis, because we think similarly, generally when things like this come up, and everybody else on the board too, do we think as a board it's appropriate to start conditioning variances by dictating windows and design? I mean, I think that this variance is very reasonable. I think that it's a reduction in nonconformities. I think that you're staying within the building footprint, all of the things that we need to have the variance.
I'm with you on that, Jason.
If it runs with the land, I'm in agreement with you. However, there have been variances that I've been a part of where they have been conditioned. So,
Yeah, I have no problem with conditioning variance. Normally when we condition a variance, we condition it in such a way that they can't change the nature of the structure.
correct.
To not use a specific case. I believe that we had one in the past with, I believe all the members of this current board were on that.
Mhm.
With a screened-in porch
Correct.
that installed that was conditioned that it could not have
Windows.
permanent windows put in, because that made it a not screened-in porch. It was no longer a screened-in porch. It was no longer consistent with, and with what was with the variance that was granted. And there are different rules for screened-in porches versus non-screened-in porches.
Correct.
However, here, I don't believe that it is within our purview to condition the variance based on the type of windows. And again, I'm not strong on this. I don't have the legal background on this to even, say that we can do that.
Jason, yeah. I'm with you, Jason. I think it's going with the lot and the land. I think that's kind of, I would take the applicant at his word that he will work out a solution. And I just don't think we should go into that.
I mean, as John said, I think that it's on the record that the applicant said that they would work out a solution.
Correct.
Yes.
We have an agreement from the applicant and the architect. I don't think that we can continue. I don't think that we can do something that conditions, the property in perpetuity to have, frosted glass or translucent glass, however you may word it.
I'll agree with that.
The only question is there was some mention of removing windows and skylights. So if we make the variance as the plan is submitted, do we allow for, there was a little bit of play of move this window here and there.
I think we can say, so I agree with you, Rich, that, normally if we approve a variance, it's approved with the plan as submitted, and that has come back to, we have instances where, the plan as submitted was not, what we thought we were approving.
Yeah. I can't find a reason to dictate the removal of the windows either.
No, I don't think I can either. I don't think that's within our, I don't think that design choices are within our scope of responsibility.
Yeah, my bedroom window faces the neighbor's back porch, and we close the curtains. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fortunate. One of the benefits of being in Zoom is that I can have multiple screens open at once, and I'm looking at I'm looking at the satellite of this, and the southerly view from 28 Hartford is, what you'd be looking at is not what's concerned here. I don't, like I said, I don't think that we can condition the movement of windows. I think that, there is a point, legally, I don't think we can. But I do think that there's a point where you need to, be able to work and work with your neighbors. And You know, I think that the two parties in question came to an agreement in front of us. And I think that that's part of the record. Now, what legal standing what legal standing that has, I don't know. Or how much it can be, you know, enforced based on an agreement that's come to, you know, on the record. But, you know, the applicant and his architect, you know, seem very willing to work with them. So you know, based on that, I think that we have standing to grant the variance. And that is the reduction in nonconformities. We're building on the same property. We're staying within the frame of the house. You know, all the things that you would say about this. And I don't think that we can condition design, right?
Yeah,
I mean, if they had no windows, right, we wouldn't even be talking about this because it's just about the variances. It's not about the design choices. The design choices and making sure your neighbors are happy is not within our scope of responsibility.
I think we're all in agreement with that.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. Absolutely.
Okay. In that case, I'd make a motion that we approve the request for variance as stated in the application.
I'll second that.
We got a state of hardship.
Yeah, and in lieu of a legal, amend the motion to state that in lieu of a legal hardship, a reduction in nonconformities is acceptable.
Okay. Amendment accepted, I'm sorry. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations and good luck.
Thank you very, very much. Very exciting. I look forward to the project. We're really going to make a beautiful home here, and I think all our neighbors, including Brian and Marie, will be pleased.
Okay. I have empathy for Mr. Boyd, but I think that's beyond our scope.
We have coastal site plan for this to do too, right?
Yes, we do. Who's going to make that presentation?
Chuck Mandel, I will do that.
Okay.
The parcel is completely in shorelands as defined by the coastal statutes. We are actually reducing area, so there was no need for stormwater mitigation since it's a reduction actually of coverage, and there's no adverse impacts to any. We're completely surrounded by residential structures, lawn, roads, that type of thing.
Would anyone like to make a motion? Or do you want me to read what I have?
We need to discuss this in closed session now.
Okay, I'd like to start a discussion. Jason?
I'm okay with this from an engineering or from an engineering standpoint. I don't think that there's any, like Mr. Mandel said, there's nothing that, you know, there's no increase in the surface area of the home. Therefore, there's no additional requirements for runoff. I believe, Ned, that there are specific standard words that we use to pass this. So I think that you should make the motion using the standard words. If I have no problem.
Okay.
The coastal site plan. If anybody else does.
Anyone else?
No, I'm pass.
Passed also.
Yep, same here, Ned.
Okay, the commission finds that the application as presented to be consistent with the goals and policies of the Connecticut Coastal Management Act as related to the variance to be voted on, and to include all reasonable measures to mitigate any potential adverse impact on coastal resources. All in favor?
Aye.
I'll second
Aye.
it. Yeah, and I.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much. Good night, everyone.
Just a
Okay.
second, just a
Next victim.
Oh, wait.
I'm not leaving then.
Wait, oh, I have to read it. Here we go, sorry. What number are we on? I'm sorry.
8245.
8245. Sorry about that. 38 Godman Road, map 77, lot 14, or U1 district. Thank you.
Okay.
Good
Sorry
evening.
about that.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Todd Anderson from Anderson Engineering and Surveying Associates, 1054 Boston Post Road. Here representing Jason Cavallero at 38 Godman Road. He desires to build a small garage pertinent to his house to store a classic car in. We took a look at his property and tried to assess where he could place this garage. Due to the wetlands that run through the middle of his property and the existing septic system in back of his house, there is no other place to place this garage. We originally were hoping to do a garage off the end of his driveway. If you've looked at the plans and looked at the site, we were planning on doing a garage about 8 feet from his house at the end of his driveway, which would have been about 10 feet from the wetlands, 10 or 12 feet from the wetlands, I think. And in talks with John DeLaura, he felt the best placement of the garage would be to tandem it right with the corner of the house. The reason we have before you the variance application is in the regulations, any accessory structure needs to be 15 feet from the house to be an accessory structure. 15 feet from the house, placing a garage on the property would put it in the wetlands. We can fit it with the sideline 1-to-1 rule, being 15 feet from the house, but we would have to fill wetlands to accomplish that. Being that 42% of the property is wetlands or on the other side of the wetlands, which splits the property, negates that option of doing that. We could place this on the other side of the wetlands and fit your 1-to-1 rule and have that garage be more than 15 feet from the house. There is a large amount of land on the other side of the wetlands. Pretty much a third of the upland is on the other side of the wetlands. We could do it back there, but we would have to do a wetlands crossing to get there. And it would require major tree clearing to put that garage back there. And as I said, a wetlands crossing, filling, and whatnot. So it can't be in the front yard, which I don't know if any of you have taken a look at this site. If we have an area to the east side of the house, as you're looking at it from the road to the left, there is an area over there where we could put it. But we would have to clear a bunch of trees, do a bunch of grading, do a separate driveway. It would be a lot more disturbance to do a garage over in that area. It makes sense to put it at the end of his existing driveway in an existing grassed area. The only thing that negates it happening there is the zoning regulation of an accessory structure needs to be more than 15 feet from an existing house. So on John DeLaura's recommendation, we pushed it right up to the existing corner of the house, and we had it placed about 8 feet from the house, 12 feet from the sideline, and 4 feet from the existing driveway to accommodate the ramp to get up into it. And our current plan is to sink this structure down into the ground without a ramp going into it. So you can go right off the pavement of the driveway into the garage, and it will be butted up against the house. And that way it is 20 feet or 18 feet, I'm sorry, 18 feet from the sideline rather than 12. So we are asking for a variance to go 18 feet from the sideline for this accessory garage to house a car, a collector car. Coverage is not an issue. We have 2.5% existing coverage where 10% is allowed, and we are proposing a 3% coverage. So we are not even close to being in that realm of a concern. The house is built in 1967, back before there were a lot of the regulations that we have these days. So he is kind of constrained with the location of where he can put this garage. We also have letters from the adjacent neighbor. As you're looking at his house, the neighbor to the right or to the west has submitted a letter in support, and his 2 adjacent neighbors directly across the street from him have submitted letters in support of his application. And also I should note that we still need to get Inland Wetlands Commission approval to construct this garage, as the proposed garage that we have is 20 feet away from the wetlands boundary. So we still have to go through that step as well. And as I said, if we could do this garage legally per your regulations, if it wasn't for that 15-foot from the main structure part of the regulation, we would fit the 1-to-1 rule no matter where we wanted it. The original proposal or this one would have fit. If we needed to fit the regulations, it would have to be on the other side of the wetlands. And we could easily do it over there, but then we're cutting down a bunch of trees. This is in an established lawn area. And the other reason why we can't put it anywhere else on the property in the back of the house is we have the existing septic system back there that we cannot impede on. So we're kind of constrained on where we can put this thing.
Okay, so I have some questions, right?
Yes.
And maybe this goes to John first. There was some restriction says the standalone structure could not be closer than 15 feet from the house, but you can attach it right to the house, or what?
Well, there's Dennis. If you'd like me to respond to that.
Yes, that's what I'm asking.
Okay, so first of all, one point of clarification. I'm also the acting inland wetlands officer. So the first conversation I had, and the reason that I suggested, not recommended, but suggested that the garage or the accessory building be moved closer or attached to the, it was always within 15 feet, but I was trying to keep it as far away from the wetlands as I possibly could. Therefore, that was my suggestion to Mr. Anderson, was to locate the garage as close to the house as possible to get away from the wetlands, to have a better opportunity if in fact he was going to go to wetlands for any kind of an approval. So, you know, I just want to make that clear that I didn't recommend that's where the accessory building goes. I recommended that it be as far away from the wetlands as possible. The other thing is that you can put a garage in the front yard. If that garage is attached, if it's less than 15 feet from the primary structure, it can be in the front yard. If it's more than 15 feet and it's connected in some way to the principal building, it can be put in the front yard. So I just want to correct that. So those are 2 points I want to correct.
Okay, so the 15-foot is not, that's not a zoning issue then, right?
It is a zoning
a-
issue because the only,
right, so-
it's a zoning issue in that it defines whether or not a second or an ancillary building is an accessory building or part of the primary building.
It's 11-1 of the zoning regs. It says if any.
I understand that, Jason, but what that says is that an accessory building less than 15 feet is part of the principal building for setbacks and
Oh, okay, so that's the only restriction. If it's less than 15 feet, then it has the same setback statements as the primary building.
it becomes part of the, for those reasons, it becomes part of.
I'm following. Okay, that's why the 15 feet.
I mean, this in
Got it.
essence is an expansion of the principal building.
Okay, I got it. Okay. All right. Yeah, I think that's my only question.
So I have a question. What exactly is the legal hardship here? I don't quite, if we're not doing a reduction in non-compliances, that we got to require on a legal hardship, and maybe somebody could clarify that.
I'd like to comment on that. The legal hardship is the location of the wetlands that are on the property that negates the possibility of having this garage more than 15 feet from the house. If we were to fill the wetlands, we would be able to have this garage more than 15 feet from the house. We have a septic system in the backyard, which we cannot encroach upon its setbacks, as well as the setbacks from the sideline. And as I said before, we could put it in the rear of the property, but that would require a major wetlands crossing permit, which I honestly don't think we would be able to get, and a bunch of tree clearing and a bunch of grading to do that. The house is built in 1967, and back then the regulations weren't what they are now. The house itself is not compliant with the current zoning setbacks. We have a house that sits at 28.8 feet from the sideline, where 30 feet is required. So it is already zoning incompliant.
May I also inquire as to whether or not the wetlands requirements were also not the same in 1967 as they are today?
They probably were not.
So
Now, Mr. Anderson, did you say that you could put the new garage in the front with some difficulty?
With extreme difficulty, it could be in the front. I mean, you'd have to, again, you would have to have it within 15 feet from the house. I don't know if any of you have been by the house, but the existing tree line to the east side of the house is not too far from the house. And then the neighbor's driveway is not too far away from that. So, you know, we would have to build this garage closer than 15 feet to the house to make it part of the house in order to have it in the front yard. And then I don't think the neighbors would like having this garage in the front yard of the house if it was closer than 15 feet from the house. You know, legally, yes, we could put it there. Aesthetically wise, would you want it there? No.
we should be trying to come.
And I think it would change the neighbors' opinions. And I think the 3 letters of support that we have would change.
But we shouldn't be exacerbating a bad situation by encroaching into the wetlands or creating an issue where we need to, if there is a legally existing place for the shed to go or for the garage to go, we shouldn't have to create a variance because you don't think it might work there, or you don't think that the wetlands are going to be provided. You know, you can find ways to mitigate the situation without getting a variance.
At the end of the existing driveway is an existing lawn area devoid of trees. It will not take much work to level that area out with a little bit of gravel. This is a pre-built garage that will be put on a gravel slab. So per se, not a concrete slab, won't have a foundation. They bring in a little bit of gravel, they tamp it down and put this pre-built garage on top of it. It's not a built-in foundation structure. It's movable. So, you know, the fact that it's a minimal site disturbance in an established lawn area without having to cut down trees and excavate an area for it, I think it's a great location for it. There's no trees that have to be removed for it, no soil disturbance for it. I don't think the Wetlands Commission will have many problems with approving this plan. Whereas if we were to go to the other side of the house, we have to have major tree removal, major excavation, then you need a separate driveway to get to it. I think that it's more of a disturbance. I think the neighbors would not be favorable of doing that. And the location where we propose is pretty much only seen by the neighbor directly to the west, which has already provided a letter in support of our application.
Could you have gone to the Inland Wetlands Commission prior to coming to the ZBA?
I could have, but on John DeLora's recommendation, I came to you first.
Yeah, I can't see getting into the wetlands. That just doesn't appeal to me. Todd, I looked at these the survey there, the zoning location survey and whatever wetlands. Are those contour lines I see there? Is that is there an altitude, an elevations issue there?
No, there is about 1.5 foot difference between, hold on a second, let me pull this up here, early model view.
Because it didn't, I drove by there, it didn't look like that, and I look at this now, and I don't know what all those dotted lines are.
Those are 1 foot contours. So the difference between the front of the shed and the back of the shed is 1 foot. So there will be about 1 foot of gravel put in to raise up and level the area that this garage gets placed on, which can be accomplished in about 1 foot. So the gravel area will be maybe 1 foot greater than what the outline of the shed is.
Okay, so yeah. All right.
Mr. Anderson, I have a brief question.
Sure.
So the driveway, as it appears, looks like it looks like there's space to the north of it that's in the wetlands. I'm looking toward lot 12. It looks like there's 18 feet to the property line. Is that correct? That's the property line. Is that north?
The driveway is on our property. It tandems the property line.
Mhm.
It does not go across the property line. The wetlands line, in the area of the shed, the property line is about 10 feet away from the wetlands line.
Yeah.
And then as we come towards the road, it expands more.
Yeah. So if instead of being in the corner of the house, and I understand that there was advice from inland wetlands that you should put the garage as far away from the wetlands as possible, which led to the decision to put it on the corner of the house where it currently is. If you moved the garage, this is absent wetlands, right? And I understand the desire to be able to drive your car into the garage. If you moved the garage to the other corner of the driveway, that would be too close. That would be close to the wetlands. Would that give you the 15 feet away from the house that you would need?
No, there's no way to accomplish the 15 feet from the house to build this garage.
So the garage is 14 by 20.
Yes.
Okay, so that's the short side of the garage is 14. So it extends from the corner of the house 14 feet toward lot 12, right north, into the middle of the driveway. It looks like there's an arrow saying that there's 18 feet from that. I believe that's the property line. That's what I'm looking at? I'm trying to find the drawing that I'm looking at. Drawing number.
Hold on, bear with me because now you got me questioning it.
I'm looking at drawing number 5751 tax ZLS.
Okay, so I just moved the garage in my drawing 15 feet from the house. I have 4 feet to the property line, and this would put it at its closest point to seven feet from the wetlands. So yes, we could accomplish that, but as I said, it would be 4 feet from the property line, 7 feet from the wetlands.
So that would be
Which John DeLora said absolutely no way. Wetlands, I agree. Wetlands Commission would not let that happen. That would involve a 2.5 feet of filling up against the wetlands. We would probably be right up against the wetlands line with the filling to accommodate that garage. So in my mind, that was not an option.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
There's not really a hardship.
Anybody else got questions? Anybody here to speak in favor or against? Okay, we do have the letters in favor that said, the neighbor letters said it was good, so. Ned, do you need a motion to go into deliberations?
Please.
So moved.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Dennis, would you like to start off?
Okay, I think that this is a rational request. It's he's got a very constrained property there with between wetlands, septic, and just front yard limitations. You don't want to be putting a garage in front of your house. He's avoiding all of those and keeping a very minimal variance requirement. If somebody were to try to put up a garage, I don't know how else they would do it.
I agree.
Yeah, I would agree with Dennis. I think
Yeah.
the location of the house and the proximity to wetlands, I really don't see where else he could put it. And he has to go before wetlands, and we don't know what they're going to say. But I really don't see any other area. And I'm glad he mentioned what the hardship was. And I agree with that. So I would be in favor of it.
I'll go back to that. The purpose of my question was because we could place this garage and it would make it an accessory building, but we would need to get approval of another town agency, right? That's what we're saying, and the thought that wetlands wouldn't approve it creates the hardship. It's not the fact that wetlands didn't approve it, right? And we have arguments, and if wetlands didn't approve the garage there, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to agree with Dennis and what he's saying, because I drove down Godman Road, I looked at the property, and it makes sense that that's where you would put a garage, right? The neighbors are not going to see it except for when there's no leaves on the trees, and you have quite the large space there. It would be easier for me had we gone to wetlands first, and wetlands had said no. I would say, yeah, that's the wetlands said no. That's the hardship, right? Wetlands said no. That's the hardship. As it stands right now, I would, all we're doing is increasing nonconformance. Was it 11.2.1 states that if any part of an accessory building is within 15 feet of the principal building on a lot, it shall be considered part of such principal building for the purposes of determining front, side, and rear yard requirements. It's the only place that makes sense is behind that driveway. We can get 15 feet away, and that then makes it not an attached property. It makes it an accessory building. I believe that Mr. Anderson said that would be 4 feet from the property line. And then, I think we can go 1 to 1. I don't know what the accessory is, but I would be, probably that would be a different variance, I believe. I mean, I can look at what the accessory building height is, but that's not what we're talking about here. Sorry, I'm trying to. Anyway, either way, I don't think there's a legal hardship, and I don't think that it decreases nonconformities, which are the two, basic guidelines that we have legally to grant a variance. That being said, we still, could grant a variance because we think that the neighbors support it, right? Because nobody's complained, nobody's here to complain about it. We have no letters saying no. I'm still, and it makes sense. And because it's the only place it can go, because that garage is not going to go in your front yard. It's not going to get attached to the house on the other side, where we'd have to pour another driveway going right across the front yard. That's an unreasonable ask. I'm really torn, because the two clear conditions that we have to grant a variance are legal hardship or a reduction of nonconformities.
Good point.
And I agree with you on that, those 2 points. That in order to have a variance, you have to have a legal hardship or you reduce your conformances. It's just not happening. And so I'm wondering how the application even made it to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
So I I think Mr. Anderson, I think he made a very compelling argument, but again, I agree with Jason and Ned. And
If our requirement making, in making motions is to identify why we granted the variance, right? What do we say?
I think we need to think about too is the use, 2-car garage for one classic car. And the other thing is the house already has a garage. So as much as I'd like to grant it, I can't find a legal justification to grant a variance. And there's, as I already mentioned, there's no reduction of conformities, so don't have anything really to grant it on.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I think it's a compelling argument, but it's not, but you're right, it's not a proven hardship without that.
Can we put this on hold and make wetlands rule?
No,
Okay.
he had to pull it before the meeting, so.
Okay.
I'd love to speak right now, but I can't.
We're in deliberations.
Do we have any other options, John?
John's staff, so he can answer.
No, I think your deliberation is going in the right way. I mean, to Jason's point, if you move the house over, it's 4 feet away. The regulation says it can't be any closer than 6 feet, even regardless of the 1-to-1 ratio.
Right.
So, you're back here with another variance, and then what? So then you get away from that variance by sliding it back across the house. And quite frankly, not only is it not reducing noncompliance, it's making it's more non-compliant because the house is 28 point something feet away now. Attaching that garage as part of the principal building, and now it's 18 feet. So you've just increased the nonconformity by 10 feet. So it's not so much even decreasing, you've increased it.
So really, they did mention they had a way they could engineer in the backyard for that. Was there an engineering, some type of engineering you could do in the backyard?
No, you can't ask him questions.
No.
We're done.
Oh, that's right. We're still in closed session. Okay. Yeah, you just can't move.
Yeah, I as much as I dislike, doing this, I mean, I'm gonna have to move to deny the variance.
Second.
Okay. I cannot support the variance request. I deny.
So no further discussion, Ned, you need a
No
vote.
further discussion. Why don't we take a vote? Would somebody like to make a motion?
He just did. You had a motion and a second.
I did, and Dennis.
All in favor, all opposed to the granting of the motion to grant a variance? Say aye.
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 Odd way to do it.
Okay.
All right. Take us out of deliberation and
Okay, we can leave the deliberations, and someone like to make a motion to deny the variance
I did.
we just did that. We just
in
voted.
private, in the non-public portion. Don't we have to do?
That's done. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry,
We voted and
I was part of
voted to
it.
approve the motion to deny the variance.
Okay. So thank you for your application.
Need to change my name to Travis.
Okay.
Well, that's not it. Believe me, we gave Travis a hard time last 2 months ago. So,
Okay. Well, last
Hold on a second.
one more.
All right. All right, here we go. 8246, 8246 58 Overshores Drive East, 24 Lot 56, R4 District. Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Zoning Board of Appeals, I'm Attorney Marjorie Shansky, and I represent Mr. and Mrs. Jason Walker, who are the owners of this property. And Mr. Anderson, I see that Mrs. Walker and Denise Van Dassel, the architect, are attendees. If they could please be elevated to panelists, I would appreciate it. And I'm also here with, thank you. And I'm also here with Todd Anderson. This application, Mr. Chairman, relates to alterations to an existing house, which include elimination of an existing porch. Oh, and I see Mr. Walker's there too. Hello, I only saw one name as the attendees. I beg your pardon. Include elimination of an existing porch, addition of new open porches, and addition of a second floor living area on an existing one-story section of a house which sits in a non-conforming setback. That is the basis of the request for a variance this evening. And I would like to say that the Overshores area is unique in its development pattern in that the parcels predate zoning in Madison, and the subsequent regulations have accounted for and legitimized undersized lots. There's that magnificent section in the Madison zoning regulations. But the locations of houses that were established before the setbacks were created sometimes leads to the situation in which this house finds itself, which is, as I say, has one non-conforming setback. In addition to the application and the hardship that I've just described, there's a letter from me to the board dated May 11th, and I'm going to discuss it perhaps later after we look at the property specifically. But I call the board's attention to the zoning data chart within both the site plan and in my letter, because dimensionally, this one non-conforming setback is the only non-conforming element in the site. Of course, the lot area is, as I say, not conforming, but legitimized by your zoning regulations. And most importantly, the coverages and maximum floor areas are within regulatory limits. So as I describe in my letter to you, but we'll talk about in more detail later, this is a permissible intensification of a nonconformity. The idiosyncrasies of the law of nonconformity, of course, prescribe expansions, but they do allow for intensifications. And the seminal case on intensification is the Zacks case, which is a Connecticut Supreme Court case in 1991, which I've discussed, as I say, in detail in my letter. But before I get to that, if Todd Anderson would come. And Todd, do you want me to share my screen?
Yes, please, because I don't have the capability of doing that.
Very well. I'm going to put your site plan up on the screen. Oops, here it is. Everybody see that?
Unfortunately, my workstation is not connected to the internet.
No, it looks like mine looks like it's behind the hold on there.
You're not seeing the site plan?
It looks like
Okay.
I see it.
I'm that's odd. Okay, let me do this.
Dennis, if you're not.
All right,
seeing-
go ahead. I got it.
Todd, can you please describe the site plan?
Excuse me?
Will you please describe the site plan and the development?
Okay, so we have a house that was built in 1940 that predates zoning. The northerly portion of the house is 4.6 feet from the property line. It is a one-story house. They intend to rebuild the entire house, add a second floor onto it. In doing that, there is an existing porch to the rear of the house to the west that is existing at 20.8 feet from the property line. We are reducing that to 22 feet. So it's a 1.2 foot, at least a 1.2 foot reduction to this small proposed open porch. So we are reducing bulk, although it is within the building envelope. And also I should add that our maximum allowed coverage, we are at 98.5% proposed coverage of the maximum allowed. We are at 89% of the maximum allowed floor area coverage. We are utilizing the existing foundation of the house to attempt to build a second floor atop the entire house. The only portion of the house that is outside of the building lines is that portion on the northerly part of the house. Everything else falls within the building setbacks. We cannot go any further towards the road to the east because of the septic system. And anything that we were to do to expand the house beyond what is already there would require new foundations and whole new first floor. So they are intending to expand on what is already there and just go up with a second floor to expand it, be code compliant with everything that the codes prescribe in today's building codes. So it is expansion of a nonconformity only in that small area to the north side of the house, which is already existing with an existing foundation.
Very well. I'm going to stop screen sharing and ask Ms. Van Dassel to please share her screen with the architectural drawings.
Sure. Okay. Okay. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So on this drawing sheet, on the top, it shows the existing, and on the bottom, I'll describe in a moment, the improvements. So I just want to clarify that the existing central portion of the home is 2 stories. That roof line is staying. We're going to add a dormer that is conforming on the west side of the structure, but the existing house has 2 bedrooms and a bathroom on the second floor with the stairs. Those are essentially staying. The first floor has this wing that on the north side that we are that's up for discussion. Why we're here is it actually has a bedroom and a bathroom. They have 3 kids. There's 2 bedrooms, 2 small bedrooms upstairs and a tiny bathroom. And then on the main floor has a living room, a tiny kitchen, a little dining room, and this awkward setup bedroom bathroom. It has a small sun porch on the southwest corner. So the proposed design will, let me go to the east elevation, which is the street elevation. So we are keeping the existing roof line, changing out the windows, changing the siding, etc. We are removing that 1-story sun porch on the southwest corner and adding basically a 2-story addition. And then on the north side, we want to expand vertically on that current single story portion of the home to balance out the house and add the necessary space for an office and a bathroom to service the office and the two bedrooms up here. So essentially, the existing second floor remains where the old bathroom was. We're going to create a hallway to access this new second story portion. The height of the overall height of this of the existing house, let's put it that way, let's start there. The existing house is about 21'2". Our proposed maximum overall building height is only slightly higher than that on this northern section of the building that we are proposing to add on to vertically. And that is basically to sandwich the existing building between these two wings, I guess is the best way to describe it. We are also proposing a single story porch in the front, all of which conforms to the zoning regulations. Everything here, coverage, setbacks, other than this one northern section, floor area, height, all that complies with your zoning regulations. I just want to share. Let's see. Can you see? I don't know if I just shared or not. Can you see a photograph?
No.
No. Okay. All right. So let me do a new share. I just want to show. Now, can you see it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So this is the building from as seen from Overshores Drive. This central portion of the building, that roof line is what I was saying stays. It looks a little odd right now. So, you know, we're going to try to envelop it and make it look a little more appropriate. This area over here is the north portion in question tonight, or why we're here. So the height of this existing roof line will only be, well, let's put it this way. The height of the proposed northern addition will only be about 8 inches or so, 9 inches less than, maybe 8 inches less than, or more than the height of the existing roof line. So it'll be like right here at its peak. Let me go back. So I think that's, that's pretty much it. There's also an outdoor shower currently on the northern corner. Let me go back to the plan again. Stop share, new share. Okay. This is the existing floor plan. The 1-story addition that we're adding the second floor on is over here on the north end. Currently, there's an outdoor shower that gets even closer to the property line. We are proposing, it's uncovered, but it's still, it's fenced in. We are proposing to relocate it around the west side of the building so that it is, we're kind of decreasing our impact within the setback currently. I think that's about it for me from now, unless anybody has questions before Marjorie moves on.
That existing fence shower is about 3 inches from the property line.
Okay, right here. So we are going to relocate it around the corner behind the building.
So, thank you very much. I want to emphasize that under the zoning chart, because there's this discussion about height, the permissible height is 37.5 feet. And we're talking about an existing height of 20.9 or 21 maybe, and proposed 22.9. So well within regulatory limits, truly a modest request. The neighborhood has enthusiastically endorsed this proposal. There are 15 letters in support that have been supplied to the zoning board. The first is from the Overshores Association Board of Directors. The immediate neighbor is one of the individual letters that have been supplied, and then 13 other neighbors on Overshores have all expressed support for this development. Then briefly, Mr. Chairman, I'll just go back to my Zacks analysis and the permissible intensification of a nonconformity. In the Zacks case, the Connecticut Supreme Court articulated a three-pronged test that establishes when current activity is within the scope of a nonconformity. And the factors are the extent to which the current use reflects the nature and purpose of the original use, any differences in the character, nature, and kind involved, and any substantial difference in effect upon the neighborhood resulting from differences. And in this case, the addition of living space over the one-story element is certainly consistent with the existing residential use. If there's one thing that we learned during COVID, and I'm guessing there are many more than one thing that we've learned during COVID, it's how important the functionality of our homes is in sustaining life when everything else has disappeared around us. With respect to the second prong, the character, nature, and kind of use involved, the alterations are improvements and reflect consistency with the neighborhood, witness the enthusiastic endorsement of the neighborhoods. And the third prong is whether there is any substantial difference in effect upon the neighborhood resulting from the change. So under the Zacks analysis, this is a permissible intensification of the existing use. And then from, sort of the more conventional legal perspective, as the board knows, there are two factors that are important when the board is assessing the appropriateness of a variance request. It must be shown not to affect substantially the comprehensive zoning plan. And because this proposed second floor addition is not making any moves closer to the property line, but is using the existing setback for its limits, that standard is met. And adherence to the strict letter of the zoning ordinance causes the unusual hardship unnecessary to carrying out the general purpose of the zoning plan. So it is a hardship born of the adoption of zoning regulations superimposed on top of an existing structure, but the addition is not erosive to the integrity of the zoning plan. And for that reason, it falls squarely within the discretion of this board to grant the relief. Again, a modest request, enthusiastically approved by the neighbors who will be most, at least visually affected by it. And it will be an improvement and enhancement to the neighborhood. So we're happy to take your questions, and we thank you for the time.
Hey, stop sharing and we'll go back to.
I'm sorry, who was that, Bill?
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
We'll actually go to the, can someone share please the diagram that had the, I think it was the aerial view, had the, I
The
think,
site plan?
yeah, Mr. Anderson was talking about it, I think.
Can you see that?
Yeah, so can you just walk through, please, the expansion and the if there's any reductions?
there's no reductions. I don't believe.
No. There's
There
not.
is a reduction on the west side of the house. On albeit it's not outside of the building line, but there is a reduction of the bulk of the structure on the west side. The existing porch is coming out and being replaced with a small open porch.
And we are also moving that outdoor shower enclosure that sits 3 inches from the property line on the north side.
Correct.
Mhm.
Yes.
Well, that existing porch is conforming already.
Yes, that is the point. This is a highly conforming structure except for this existing extension or this existing presence in the side yard. And notably, it is a side yard, not a front yard. And that is important because I understand that there may be or is some sensitivity to prior decisional law in the state of Connecticut. But this is a case that is distinguishable. I'm referring to the Moon case, and I've included this in a footnote in my letter to you. This is the situation before the board right now is distinguishable from the Moon case. The Moon case was already non-conforming with respect to the maximum building coverage requirements when it came forward to seek additional square footages. And it was looking for, it had a non-conforming front yard. This property has a conforming front yard. And so the effect of this addition is not one that reaches out toward the streetscape. It is contained within a conforming setback, and it represents a conforming coverage. So in those respects, it is distinguishable, and it is indeed, once again, within your discretion to approve.
Okay, just for the record, that might not match that which we have been trained on,
Right.
if you will.
I have a brief question. Did I understand that we are tearing down the entire structure and then building it new?
No.
No, the existing, I can't,
The existing house and the existing first floor, which is non-conforming at the moment, right? The existing first floor is the only thing about the current structure which is non-conforming, correct?
Correct.
The side yard.
So the existing first floor non-conforming, we are maintaining the same footprint on the north side, right? And
Yes.
we are increasing the height.
Correct.
Thank you.
Within the building envelope.
Within the building envelope. Yeah.
Right. But I do want to add, if you look at the architectural drawings, we tried very hard to give them the code required headroom up there. It is very limited, even with the proposed design. It does have a dormer on the north wall, but that dormer stops far short of both ends of the building, and it basically gives the proper headroom that's needed in the bathroom and for a small portion of the office. The rest of the office and bathroom have knee walls that I want to say is about 4 feet high. So the roof line stays
Slopes.
generally pretty low. You know, we did our best to keep it as minimal an impact with giving the appropriate headroom that's needed. It's a very narrow building, that portion. It's about 11 feet wide.
Wow, and you got knee boards, so that.
And we got knee walls. So, I mean, certain areas, the bathroom has code required headroom, and you know, the room itself has for code has minimum headroom for a certain square footage or dimensional area. So we use that as well. And just going down the peak isn't wide enough. So that area of the building is 11 feet by just under 26 feet long. And again, it's not the whole 11 feet that's in the setback. It's 7 feet 4 inches that's in the setback. Yeah, correct.
Thank you.
What is the stated hardship?
Ms. Shansky, could you restate the hardship again for us for clarity?
The imposition of zoning regulations on top of an existing structure qualifies an applicant to seek a variance. That's textbook law.
What?
That would mean any variance request that came in on any property that we've discussed or any property that was there ahead of time, they could get any variance they want. And then I'm not quite sure that the scope is quite that wide open.
That's not what I said. What I said is that they're eligible to seek a variance.
Okay. Yeah, eligible to seek is not quite the same as proving a hardship.
Well, the hardship has to do with the adoption of the regulations on top of the existing structure. But the Zach's principle of a permissible intensification overcomes the notion that of the variance. It is another element, another path to zoning relief. That's the Connecticut Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Can I ask Mr. DeLauro, John, would that moving of the bathroom, not the bathroom, the outside shower be considered a reduction?
No, it's not going to count as square foot. And if the wall itself is under 6 feet or 6 feet, we just really kind of see outdoor showers that don't have roofs. It's basically fences, so they could actually be on the property line. We don't regulate those, so I don't think that that's really a reduction of a nonconformity.
Nor is it claimed as one.
Yeah.
I appreciate the effort to create one, but the basis on which we are here is the permissibility of this intensification.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that. It's not really relevant.
Well,
John,
I don't know the answer to this, and I don't doubt Ms. Shansky's expertise in this.
Do I?
I'm sorry?
I said, nor do I.
Yeah. But it seems to disagree somewhat with some of the training we got. Should we get a hearing from legal on this?
No, I don't think it does disagree. I think it's just she's presenting it another way of looking at it. We haven't been tutored in Zach in that case law. But I mean, basically what you've done before and what you're doing today is that this setback for the second floor is over an existing first floor that's 4.6 feet, I believe.
Yeah, and we've done that before. We've done this before,
and this is no more egregious than what's already there.
Right.
So
Yeah, the one on Opening Hill, for instance. Yeah.
And I agree that it's an intensification because the use is the same. It's a single family residential structure. Could have very well been built with 2 stories initially, but they were cottages. So, I think that it conforms with, I think, the plan of conservation and development as far as, a responsible massing and enlargement or intensification of a dwelling. So I don't think it's in conflict with what you've learned. I think it's just a different way of looking at it.
Okay. All right.
Basically, the Connecticut Supreme Court supersedes our role.
Well, it's one case.
They don't
You
supersede.
know, it's a case. I mean, you know, you can, you know, it's one leg of the stool, you know, and it's important. So, I mean, I believe what she's saying is that it's your discretion, you have the discretion.
We have the discretion.
This variance based on the intensification and no further encroachment into that side yard, to keep it simple. I'm not a lawyer, but.
Neither am I.
Yeah.
I would agree that is what has happened in this case, specific to this case. That there is an intensification of an existing use. They're not creating any more disturbances.
So can we move to do we have any more questions for folks? If not, can I make a motion that we move to the discussion portion of this?
Sure.
Second.
Move.
So.
Okay.
All in favor?
All in favor.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
So I'm looking through my reference documents here. And this Zach's case is specifically called out, and it says, in deciding whether the current activity is within the scope of a non-conforming use consideration should be given to 3 factors. 1, the extent to which the current use reflects the nature and purpose of the original use. 2, any differences in the character, nature, and kind of the use involved. And 3, any substantial difference in effect upon the neighborhood resulting from differences in the activities conducted on the property. So this, you know, there's a lot of literature about this Zach's case, and it seems to be the single, you know, original, you know, defining part of this. Now, the Zach's case talked about adding transformers and adding things to an existing non-conforming radio antenna, but it has been moved to other non-conforming uses and expansions. Number one, I wasn't able to find anything in the zoning rules and regulations which prohibited the expansion of non-conforming, which prohibited the expansion of non-conformities. Apparently, there are a number of zoning regulations in other towns in Connecticut which has specific lines that prohibit the expansion of non-conformities. So our zoning regulations do not expressly prohibit the expansion of non-conformities. You know, I can't say why that was done, but I think I can interpret that the intention of that was to allow things like Zach's to continue to hold. So going by what this is saying, the extent to which the current use reflects the nature and purpose of original use. So the current use is a house, living space, and it's very clearly stated that this is a living space. It was a living space, it's still a living space. The use doesn't change. Number 2, any differences in the character, nature, and kind of use involved. There's no differences in the use.
No differences.
It was a living space, it's still a living space, it's going to be a living space. Right. Number 3, any substantial difference in effect, that's with an E, upon the neighborhood resulting from differences in the activities conducted on the property. People are going to continue to live there, right? They're going to continue to occupy it, right? So I think,
in fact, the effect may be positive,
right? And
the neighbors
and the neighbors support it. So this is, you know, has to do with use. This is basically a case of expanding a nonconformity, right, or intensifying the nonconformity. It is contained within the footprint of the building. It doesn't increase encroachment on the setback, though it increases the nonconformity because the building rises. But you know, we are allowed for an intensification of a nonconformity. It doesn't. I believe there's a difference between intensification and, you know, adding more nonconformity. It doesn't encroach into the side yard setback anymore. And there is no change in use. I think that this Zach's case was cited by Ms. Shansky appropriately and applied appropriately to this case. I would be in favor of granting this variance on the precedence of the Zach's case.
Okay. So I would have no objection to that.
I would agree.
Very good, very right on point for this particular case. So I would support this as well.
So we probably need a motion to approve the application for intensification.
Can I,
Go
John?
for it. Go for it,
John,
Jason.
real fast. Do we need to rehash the information contained within the Zach's case, or can I just make a motion that cites that as precedence?
Yeah, you can make a motion and reference that.
Okay, I motion to approve this variance based on the precedence set in Zach's, what is it, Zach's versus Avon Zoning Board of Appeals from 1991.
Good.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? Go for it, Ned. Ask for a vote. Ask for a vote, Ned.
All in favor, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Close the deliberations and let's move on.
Yes, it's
And
getting late.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Well done.
Next order is the minutes. Was it the May meeting?
April.
April.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, we didn't have a May meeting.
No, we did not.
So Jennifer got herself her first meeting. It was a very long one.
Very long.
Too long.
It's about twice as long as they usually have been. So
Yes,
Yeah.
this one was longer than the April meeting that I watched.
oh, you were there
on.
for that. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Before they changed the zoning, it used to run till midnight some nights.
That's what I heard.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
Okay.
So are we gonna,
What's
who's gonna read
next?
the minutes?
So next, the minutes from April, I don't have the date. I don't. I
13.
didn't
April
really-
13th.
13.
April 13th. May make a motion to approve the minutes for April 13th.
I
So
approve.
moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I abstain. I wasn't here.
Okay. And I think that's it. Was there another item?
No.
Okay. Well, I'd like to call the meeting adjourned.
So adjourned.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.